Welcome again to part 3 of What If Izuku Was the Perfect Nomu. As we left off, Izuku was talking with All for One as he had just returned from dropping Uraraka, Mina, Kirishima, and Bakugo off at UA. Izuku was told that he is required on the attack at the training camp. This will be the finale to Perfect Nomu. I am ending this in 3 parts, so this part will be longer than the other 2. Izuku creates a mask for himself that has a voice changer in it. Izuku readies with Muscular to get sent to an area of the training camp. He tells the League, though, that they will not harm Uraraka. That they are to only give her minor injuries. If she is killed, he will kill every single one of them. Muscular scoffs at this, thinking to himself he will do whatever the hell he wants. Shigaraki nods as he respects Izuku because the master does. The rest of the League agrees as well, as Izuku is the one giving them orders right now. Izuku tells them that they are to kidnap Monama and bring him in alive. That they need him alive. Izuku tells all of the League of Villains that they need to get ready, as Korogiri opens up multiple different portals for them to go through. Izuku and Muscular go through the first. As Izuku's there, he contacts Uraraka and tells her with his telepathy that there is going to be an attack and that she might get injured, but all of them have been told to not kill her. They are not here to kill, he told them. She told her they are here to fight as they are villains, and if they encounter each other, they will have to fight, but he means no harm against her. She understands and agrees and says that she will not tell her class. For this, he thanks her. Muscular had gone off to do his own thing, but Izuku had decided to follow him, as Muscular has a problem following orders. Koda had decided to sit where he usually does on the mountain. He didn't want to interact with the wannabe heroes, as he called them. He kicked a rock, and that rock just so happened to land in front of Muscular. Muscular had decided to walk up the mountain so that he could see the entire campus. Upon seeing Koda, he says, "Oh, lucky day. Guess I've found my first victim." He lunges at Koda with a powerful punch, trying to kill him. But as the punch strikes where Koda was, Koda is gone. Izuku had flung in the way and grabbed Koda, saving him at the last second. He tells Muscular that this is not what they came here for. He tells him that if you cannot follow simple orders, he will put him down. And Muscular smiles and says that he can try. He says everyone thinks you are supposed to be this perfect being, this perfect creation. Well, I don't believe in that bullshit. I believe in combat. And just as Izuku puts Koda down, Muscular bolts towards him in an attempt to kill him. And Muscular punches Izuku right in the chest, but it does nothing. Izuku tanks the hit as he skids back. He tells Muscular, if that is all you have, if that is the best you can do, then he should have stayed in the rotten hell of a town he was already in. He tells Muscular that if this is the power of one of the strongest villains that is said to be able to go toe to toe with All Might himself, then All Might must have gotten weaker. And Muscular must be bluffing, because All Might is a lot stronger than he is. And Muscular rushes Izuku again, throwing punches after punch. Or punch after punch, not punch after punch. He throws punch after punch at Izuku, each one either being evaded or flat out tanked. Izuku then decides he's had enough of this playing around. He grabs Muscular by his hand as Muscular went for a punch, and he begins to crush his fist as Muscular begins to scream in pain. Izuku simply kicks him in the side of the head, throwing him into the wall against the mountain. Izuku tells Muscular to stand up, saying that if he went down after a measly little kick like that, then he was never meant to be a villain. He was nothing more than a fake of what he claimed, that he was nothing more than a weakling, and that he was going to be put down like one. He told Muscular that he had 10 seconds to stand up before Izuku would strike again, and that if he was in the same spot, he'd make sure he killed him. Koda, at this point, had recognized Muscular and was cowering behind Izuku in terror. He did not know why this villain was protecting him. He didn't care. He wanted only to he only wanted to know what was going to happen to Muscular. Koda weakly asked if Muscular was going to die, and Izuku told him that Muscular would die if he didn't stand back up. Koda said, but Izuku asked, why do you care? I know he tried to kill you and all, but aren't you a kid? Kids shouldn't be worrying if someone's going to die or live. He said, and Izuku told him, children should only be worried about having a good time with their parents. And that's where Koda said, but I can't even do that, because he took them away from me. He killed my parents. And that is when Izuku realized that the reason Koda was so angry with Muscular and looked angry when he saw him, along with afraid, is that he is the one who killed his parents. And that is when Muscular stood back up and said, and I'll finish the family bloodline here too. and he rushed at Kota, but a hand grabbed him at the bottom of his ankle, lifting him up and slamming him down on his back. This caused Muscular to spit up blood as Izuku slammed his foot into Muscular's chest, pinning him to the ground. He told Muscular, "You will do nothing without my order. I am the commander. I am the general. I am your leader. I am the new All for One. I am his successor." As Izuku would begin to press his foot into Muscular's chest, Muscular increased the muscle density around his body before punching Izuku in the chest again, making him slide off of him. Izuku noted that one he could actually feel, and he wondered why. Muscular was wearing brass knuckles. That is why he could feel it. Muscular pulled out a little syringe before injecting it into his muscles. His muscles began to bulge red and began to grow bigger. He was using a quirk-enhancing drug to try and finish Izuku. Muscular punched Izuku again. This time, Izuku raised his hand and blocked the punch because he knew if he was hit, he would slide back, and he did not want to be pushed back by this weakling anymore. Izuku grabbed Muscular's punch as he hit his hand, and he began to crush his fist again, this time not letting go. He created a small, glowing blade around his hand made entirely of energy from the energy quirk he possessed. And he severed Muscular's left arm. He severed it at the elbow joint. From the elbow down, his arm was severed. Blood began to rush from the wound as Muscular used his quirk to seal the wound, creating a thick layer around where he was cut. Muscular cursed under his breath before looking at Izuku and telling him, "I'll make sure I rip your head from your neck." Muscular rushed and went for an axe kick at the head, but Izuku blocked it and grabbed Muscular's chest, gripping him by his muscle fibers. He began to float into the air, picking up Muscular. He picked Kota up as well with a telepathy quirk, or telekinesis quirk, and floated him around before gripping Muscular tighter as the veins in his arm began to bulge out, showing that he was straining his muscles as Izuku lifted Muscular high above his head and threw him into the ground, causing a massive tremor all around where the impact was. Everyone on the campus could feel the tremor, but the only one that knew where the tremor was coming from was Mandalay. She knew that's where Kota was, so she decided to go there. And what she saw was Kota sitting there on a rock as Muscular was embedded into the ground. A figure standing above him. Mandalay immediately rushed towards Kota and grabbed him and put him behind her. Mandalay then got into a fighting position, asking who the masked figure was. Kota told her that he saved him. but Mandalay simply wanted to know who he was. He turned around, revealing his blood-red eyes glowing from his mask. He told her, "I am the new All for One. I am All for One's successor." This caused Mandalay to take a step back in fear. As she did, Izuku was in front of her. He halted her movements with a simple hand on her shoulder. He told her, "I am sparing your life today because you are the caretaker of that boy. Make sure he grows up to have a good life, unlike most people nowadays," before delivering a swift chop to her neck, knocking her unconscious. He laid Mandalay on the ground with Koda next to her, with Koda still sitting next to her. Koda was worried and asked why he did that. He said, "Because I'm a villain. I cannot allow her to get in my way. I still have something to do." This is when Izuku disappeared and appeared next to Dabi, who was lighting the entire forest on fire. Dabi's eyes had a distinct look in them. Izuku recognized those eyes as the eyes of Endeavor. Izuku knew Dabi was Endeavor's child, but he never asked any questions. Izuku simply asked, "Do they know where Monama is?" And Dabi said that he's over there near the Bakugo kid. The only problem is that he's also accompanied by the person that they were told to not kill. And the only way that they're likely going to get to there is if they go through them. And it said it seemed like the boy's also using the blonde's quirk and another person's. And that's when Izuku said that's because he has a copy quirk. And the master wants that quirks and wants the kid's blood to analyze it and see if we can't make a copy quirk of our own, but one that keeps the quirks. Dabi understood that and realized why they were doing it. Izuku said that he'll handle it himself, and said he'll use his telepathy to tell the others to back off. Izuku tells Compress he needs one of his marbles, and he wants to borrow Compress's quirk for a minute. Compress is hesitant, but agrees. So Izuku takes Compress's quirk before disappearing. With his strength and his precision, Izuku chucks the marble from their blind side at Monama, capturing him before bolting in and grabbing the marble. Bakugo immediately sends an explosion at Izuku, which does send him back a little, with a slight burn mark on his chest, which heals in seconds. His mask is still intact, and and with the voice changer active, he tells Bakugo and the hero students that he thanks them for their gift and disappears back to Compress. He hands Compress the marble and gives him back his quirk before telling Korogiri that they need a portal. They failed to realize one thing upon capturing Monama. When they released him and knocked him out before he could do anything to grab his blood, they continued to hold him just in case the master needed more blood. While they were analyzing Monama's quirk, Izuku hadn't realized that all the heroes were silent the entire week. The public did not know that another student was kidnapped. The Hero Association could not allow that. So no one let it out that another student was kidnapped. But while Izuku was working with Garaki and All for One to analyze Monama's quirk, the base was attacked and Monama was rescued. Was attempting to be rescued, but they needed more blood. They needed another sample. So All for One summoned every one of the villains to the Nomu factory, which had also been attacked, that he was already at. He appeared behind Monama and took a sample of his blood again before teleporting it off to Izuku. That is when All Might appeared and blasted in, punching All for One, but All for One retaliated and grabbing All Might's hands and throwing him away. Monama was attempting to fight off the villains, who had now been given permission to kill him. That is when Bakugo and the other students rushed in to save Monama. Just as they rushed in and got Monama out, before All for One could attempt to attack them, All Might retaliated and breaking All for One's mask and permanently disfiguring his face as All for One's head was slammed into the ground. All for One's healing quirk healed most of the damage as it had been upgraded by Izuku working with DNA. But now he did have a permanent scar across his face. All for One was now exposed. His face was now shown. All Might told him that he will not leave, that he will go to jail. And Izuku was worried. He was worried the Master would lose because he knew that All Might had the only quirk that could defeat All for One. All for One told Izuku that if he falls, Izuku will become the new head of the League of Villains. Izuku said that if he thinks he is going to fail, he will step in. And All for One asked him politely not to, but Izuku told him that he will only not step in if it's not fatal. But if he thinks he's going to die, he will step in. And then All for One agrees. All for One toys with All Might, using his air cannon to forcibly blast the hero back. All for One does enough damage to All Might to where he has to deflate, showing his skinny form to the world. All for One then mimics All Might's master's smile, saying that a hero must smile, right, All Might? All for One taunts the hero, who is now in his true form, staring the monster down. All Might is worried as All for One begins to create a giant arm ready to kill him. And as All for One goes to punch him, All Might charges all of One for All into his fist and retaliates with a punch against All for One's. The punches collide, destroying nearby buildings. But just as All for One gains the upper hand in pushing All Might back, All Might lets his arm fly behind him, letting the arm grow skinny as his other arm buffs up, punching All for One in the shoulder, breaking through some of the quirks, throwing him off guard. before the arm deflates and it extends into his other arm as All Might turns his body, locking his foot, spinning and yelling inside his heart, United States of Smash, before All for One is forcibly thrown into the ground with a powerful punch that created a tornado in the sky, changing the weather itself. All for One was knocked clean unconscious, but All Might didn't stop. He punched him again while the cloud was still there. Izuku, who had a small device connected to All for One's heart, was watching the heart monitor as it went silent. Izuku's eyes went from a dark green color to an ominous red as every single muscle in his body began to tighten as Izuku was now more than angry. He was pissed off. Izuku decided he would kill him. He would destroy the symbol of peace. All for One had been killed from All Might's punch, and All Might knew this. All Might stood proudly, but as he did, a force sent him into the ground in his buff state, just as he deflated. Izuku was hovering in the air with a form of All for One's mask covering his face. He yelled through the mask's voice changer, "I am the successor of All for One, and you will pay for killing my master." Izuku states as he shows a monitor to the world of All for One's heart stopping. This caused the world to shift. No one expected a hero to kill, let alone All Might. Endeavor was understandable. Endeavor's quirk was able to kill easily, but All Might always pulled his punches to where he wouldn't. But now he had committed a murder. Izuku asked the world, is this the hero they knew? Is this the hero they followed? As he showed another screen of his own memories, blurring out his face, stating that All Might told him that when he was quirkless, that he couldn't be a hero. That's when All Might knew who he was. All Might watched in horror as Izuku landed in front of him. All Might charged his last punch and rushed at Izuku, punching him with the same force that he did All for One. But Izuku simply caught his fist, and he told All Might, "You should have fear because I am here." And he punched All Might in the chest with all of his force, shattering his rib cage. He told All Might he would make him suffer. And he picks his foot up as All Might's laying on the ground, coughing up blood from the punch, and he stomps All Might in the head, causing All Might to then bleed from his skull as part of his skull is exposed from the kick. Izuku tells him, "How does it feel to have fear, number one?" as he stomps on his left arm, completely destroying it. Izuku then grabs the destroyed arm and rips it from the socket. As All Might sits there screaming in pain, Izuku tells him that he will die again. That he will die as Izuku lifts his foot to stomp his head. He is engulfed by red flames as Endeavor has appeared. Izuku shields his mask so that it does not melt. But however, his clothes and his skin are severely charred as Endeavor attempts to pull All Might away. This is when Izuku lunges forth, sending out tendrils that cut through Endeavor's arm as they forcibly activate Endeavor's quirk, burning All Might's arm with blue flames. Endeavor, as the tendrils are ripped from his arm, screams in pain as he drops All Might. He attempts to apologize to All Might, but before he can, an air blast penetrates All Might's skin, killing him instantly, as the blast was aimed at his chest. It went through his chest and through the bone, piercing his heart. Endeavor looked back towards Izuku. At this point, Endeavor was now very much afraid. He was very afraid. He attempted to flee, but Izuku did not allow him. He jumped into the air, slamming onto the number two's back, breaking his spine. He flips Endeavor over and stands on top of him, holding his fist into the air like All Might, and he proclaims that he will change this society. He will change it. He will not let the fake heroes control society any longer. With that said, Izuku leaves Endeavor broken and beaten on the ground. Izuku then gets a text from Uraraka. She asks him, is he okay mentally? Stating that everything he went through and putting it out there, was it... Ow. Fucking hit my knee. Was he okay? Was he going through a lot? Izuku simply tells her that he is fine and that he wants to see her. Izuku tells Ochako a place to meet. She meets him and Izuku hugs her as he begins to cry. He tells her that All for One was the only thing he had to a father. The closest thing to a father he had. That's when Aizawa dropped in front of them. He tells Izuku that he is under arrest for being in cahoots with All for One. Izuku simply tells Aizawa that he can't arrest him because he can't capture him. Aizawa asks what he means, and he grabs Aizawa's arm and forcibly shows him his memories, everything, showing him who he is. Aizawa begins to cry uncontrollably, stating that Izuku has gone through a lot, and he understands Izuku's pain. But before Aizawa could finish, Izuku screams in Aizawa's face, "You do not understand my pain. You grew up with a quirk. I did not. You grew up a hero. I grew up a puppet for everyone's anger. I grew up a toy for everyone to abuse." Izuku was told that while he was correct, going down the path of villainy was still not the right choice. He told Izuku that he could have became a hero to better humanity that way. And Izuku told him heroes do nothing but damage society. Heroes are nothing but fakes who love to control and manipulate society to what they want it to be. Izuku told Aizawa that he will remain a villain and that if Aizawa gets in his way, he will kill him. Aizawa simply states that he will not be getting in Izuku's way because Izuku will not have much longer until he's captured. Just as Aizawa says that, every hero from a 30-block radius surrounds Izuku and Uraraka. Uraraka is forcibly thrown to the ground by Edge Shot, as she is then pinned by Kamui Wood's branches. Just as Kamui Woods pins her, telling her she is under arrest for dating a villain, Kamui's branches are set ablaze by a black flame. The flame quickly engulfs the branches up to his arm, completely charring his arm, leaving third-degree burns or worse. As Kamui Woods desperately attempts to put the flame out, Manuel sprays him with water, putting the flame out. The rest of the branches that were now pinning Uraraka are shattered from Izuku's physical strength, even though Erasure has then been activated. He tells them that if they get in his way, he will not hold back. One of the heroes, being Edge Shot, cockily says that Eraserhead's using his quirk on you. You can't escape. Give up now, and we might consider allowing you to join the heroes. But from what you've done, it's likely you're going straight to Tartarus, where you belong, along with your spy. Izuku simply laughs and says, "You think Uraraka's the spy?" He begins to laugh maniacally as he says one thing to them, one single sentence. The traitor is still at UA. Just as he says this, an explosion is set off at UA, alerting the heroes. The traitor outed himself as Aoyama Yuga. He had planted bombs inside of UA because Izuku told him to. All for One told Aoyama that if he didn't follow orders, he would die. Because Muscular had met the same fate. And All for One didn't want to risk Aoyama thinking he can get away with whatever, because he didn't tell them that Momo had put trackers on everybody. Aoyama decided to follow the orders and set off the bombs inside UA. Just as Izuku was talking about the traitor. This caused them to panic, knowing that they did not have the traitor meant that they were in trouble. Izuku laughed and told them that if they want to, he'll allow them to go back to UA to repair the damages, as long as they do not interfere with his work. He told them most of them were good heroes, pointing out Aizawa and manual, as they do what they do for the work, not for the money or the fame. He pointed out to Mount Lady and Kamui Woods, saying, "But you two are the only ones here that I don't like, because you two do all of this for the money and the fame." Mount Lady states that she doesn't care what he thinks, and she activates her quirk and goes to stomp him. He puts a hand up, grabbing a hold of her foot and throwing her back. And as she's about to hit a building, she is hit in the spine with an air cannon and is sent flying. As her spine was damaged, her spinal column was permanently severed, leaving her paralyzed from the waist down. Izuku asks Uraraka, is she fine leaving UA with him? Uraraka states that while she didn't want to leave UA, she wanted to be a hero, to save people, and to make money to help her parents. He tells her she can be a hero, and tells Aizawa that he will only spare the lives of innocent people on one condition. The other heroes, after seeing his power, even with Eraser being activated, were dumbfounded, because Izuku took advantage of the split second Aizawa closed his eyes because of the force he created from the explosion at UA and throwing Mount Lady above his head to activate air cannon. Izuku had now also activated another quirk, which had allowed him to almost incapacitate Aizawa, leaving him unable to see for roughly 5 minutes. He told Aizawa, either Uraraka is allowed to become a hero and none of you arrest her, or I will flatten UA and all of the surrounding area. Leave your choice here. Or make your choice here. Izuku then raises his hand as multiple quirks begin to activate in his hand as he prepares a powerful explosion ready to go. The quirks he's using are his energy quirk, his power quirk, and an electrification quirk. The electrification quirk is halting all forms of electronics around them right now to record. As after the explosion and Mount Lady being thrown, everyone wanted to know what was going on, but no one can record, so no one can get a clear shot of Izuku's face without getting too close. And if no one can see his face, then no one can do anything about him, because no one will ever know what his face looks like after the day. And Izuku tells Aizawa he has one thing to say. And he tells him that if Uraraka cannot be a hero, then how can anyone else? He tells Aizawa that he will allow Uraraka to continue being a hero, or UA will be flattened. Aizawa reluctantly agrees. As Izuku smiles to Aizawa without looking, Ed Shot takes the opportunity to thin himself out and attempt to enter Izuku's body to render him unconscious. This proves to be a fatal mistake. Ed Shot is grabbed by Izuku. Izuku had grabbed the cord Ed Shot had turned himself into. Ed Shot tried to use his body to cut into Izuku's hand and enter, but he couldn't. Izuku's skin was too tough. His quirk could not enter it. He would have to thin himself out, thin enough to enter the pores on his skin, and that could prove fatal to himself. Izuku told him that was your only warning, Ed Shot. As Izuku ignites his hand in a black flame, killing the hero. Over the next course of a couple of months, the villains had remained inactive. Izuku was taking charge. He was taking control of all the underground operations. The only one he did not agree with was Overhaul. Overhaul was then swiftly executed. He wasn't given much of a chance to put up a fight. Eri was brought into the care of Izuku. Eri was being taught the perfects of being a hero, even though Izuku was a villain. He taught Eri that treating people kindly is what matters, no matter their power or lack thereof. Izuku told Eri that he wasn't a very good person, but that she could be better than he was, and that he wanted her to be better than he was. And so Eri, being a kid, said that she liked him anyways and that he was a good person to her. In her eyes, he was her hero. Izuku was trying to understand how he could be a hero to someone. It caused him to think. Izuku wanted nothing more than to protect others, but now he was doing the very thing he didn't want to. He didn't want to be a hero, but now he realized he wasn't even a villain. He had become a monster. Over the last course of UA's first year, upon receiving her hero license, Uraraka decided she wanted to go and do internships with Ryuku. Izuku asked Uraraka what kind of person she thought he was. The night before her internships, Izuku met her outside the dorms, and she went to his house because he wanted to see her before she went to the internships. Aizawa didn't have much of a choice but to allow this. He told Uraraka that he wanted her opinion on something. He asked her, is he a good person? Was he still the villain that he was? Or was he no longer even a villain? Was he now a monster? Upon seeing his turmoil, Uraraka simply hugged Izuku. She hugged him tightly, laying his head against her chest, telling him that she doesn't believe he's become a monster, but that even if he thinks he has, he can still change. She told him, I'm not gonna ask you to be a hero, but if you don't want to be a villain anymore, you don't have to be. Just because you have these powers does not mean you have to be a villain. The powers you possess don't define you. You define what they're used for. With that said, Izuku hugged her back again tightly. He told her he loved her and that he loved the fact that she was always honest with him. He told her he didn't want to be a monster anymore. He said that the League of Villains were going to hate him, but none of them knew where he lived, so he didn't care. He told Uraraka that for one night tonight, he wants to be a normal couple. And he asks her if they if she's ready to do anything with him to further their relationship. He tells her, we've been together for a couple of months now. Did I specify the time skip? Fuck, I don't think I specified. I did specify the time skip. If I didn't specify the time skip, there was a time skip to where they got their hero license and stuff. It was a course of about 3 or 4 months. So there, time skip's been explained. I don't think if I explained that or not, but fuck, I don't care. Continue. He asked her if she was ready to do anything to further their relationship. He told her that she is the only person in the world he cared about more than himself. He told her he wanted to make a family with her. He said he already has Eri. Eri is like his adoptive little sister or child. He can't determine which one it is, but she treats him as if he is her older brother. So he's going with that one for now. But he told Ochako he wants to make his own family with her. A family that is his and hers together. Ochako tells him that if he is ready, she is ready, with a blush covering her entire face, making her face almost a glowing red color. Izuku decides to go and grab something. He comes back and hands her a box and says that if she wants, they can use those. It's a box of condoms. She nods her head as they both share a kiss. And I'm not going to explain it because I'm not going to get demonetized. Fuck you. You fucking perverts. Y'all thought I was going to fucking go there? Ha. Nope. I'm not getting demonetized today, bitches. I'm going to say that. This video's going to get demonetized anyway. Just watch. I'm going to fucking jinx myself. I swear to God. There. I've knocked on wood. Fuck off. Anyways, back to the story. The next morning, Uraraka wakes up after Izuku woke up to go make breakfast. She attempts to get out of bed, and as she does, her left leg kind of just gives out on her. It's like, yeah, fuck you. You ain't standing up. She falls face first onto the floor, face planting. This causes Izuku to sort of jump and immediately bolt into the door, or bolt through the door, as he asks her if she's okay. She pushes herself up off the floor and says that she's fine. Her legs just gave out because she can't feel them. Izuku was going to ask why, but when he realizes why before even asking, a red glow adorns his face as he leans down and picks her up. She has about 4 hours until she has to be at her internship. He told her if her legs can't work on their own by then, he will use a healing quirk on her. She asked why he didn't want to do it already, and he said he wants to savor the moment of when he made her not able to walk, and she says, "Fuck you." She tells him, "Fuck you. I don't like not being able to walk." And Izuku says, We've done that already. You can't say that." He says, "We've done that already. Do you want to do it again?" This causes her to blush and call him a smartass. He sets her on the couch in the living room before bringing her a plate full of food and gives her a kiss on the cheek, which then suddenly, as he's kissing her cheek, a red glow adorns his lips as her legs begin to regain feeling. She said, "Did you seriously just heal me with a kiss?" And he said, "Yes. What, do you not like the true love's healing kiss?" Which is what he decided to call it, just because he can. She she chuckled at him before calling him corny. After eating her food, she returned to UA to get ready for the internships. Everyone in the dorm asked her where she was last night. She simply tells them it's none of her business before Aizawa decides to reveal her, saying she was at her boyfriend's house because he decided to be a dick. Everyone looks at her and immediately begins to ask questions. She tells all of them she wants no one, she's telling no one anything that happened. She gets ready for her internship, and off all the UA students go. While they're at internships, Izuku is questioning everything. He begins to ponder on what if what he's doing is really worth it. If being what he is truly worth it. All for One had told him with his modifications he couldn't be a hero. But All for One is dead. And he said, and I'm sure that if the master was here, he'd tell me to follow my dreams and follow what I want to do. Izuku decides to call Eraserhead. Eraserhead answers the phone with a slight hesitation. He asks Izuku before Izuku can ask anything if he was going to get his student pregnant. This caused Izuku to halt what he was doing and turn completely red. Izuku stuttered, saying, "No, I'm not going to get her pregnant, Aizawa. Not yet." Aizawa comments on the "not yet," causing Izuku's blush to grow even more. Izuku asks Aizawa if there's anything that Izuku could do to possibly be a hero. This confuses Aizawa really much, really a lot. And he simply tells Aizawa to meet him somewhere. Izuku, before meeting him, had also altered Dr. Garaki's memories. He took all memories of the League of Villains, aside from anything from the news, and All for One out of Dr. Garaki's head, and put it in his head that Izuku was his apprentice that he was teaching, who was getting paid $50 a month. Or $50,000 a month. Izuku met Aizawa at the coffee shop where they first talked. Izuku told Aizawa that he feels he's become a monster. The one thing he never wanted to become. The thing he didn't want to happen happened. He turned into a bully. He turned into what he didn't want to be. So he asks Aizawa if, even though he has all for One's abilities, can he be a hero and save people? Aizawa states that he genuinely doesn't know. Under normal circumstances, he'd say yes, but the Hero Commission views Izuku as a threat. If they find out that Izuku has All for One, then they will try to arrest him. They will make sure that anyone Izuku knows is put as a target. That includes his mother. He said, but if the Hero Commission doesn't find out, then you should be fine. He tells Izuku that due to him killing the symbol of peace and permanently crippling the number 2 hero, that Hero Society has to now rely on Hawks as their number 1. And that if Izuku planned on helping people, he needed to uncripple Endeavor. Izuku did not want that, but he knew society needed it. So he told Aizawa he will do it on one condition. Aizawa allows him to join UA as the number 1, as a recommendation student, and give him a dorm shared with Ochako. Nezu agrees to this after being told by Aizawa. So Izuku dons his scientist coat, his lab coat, and goes to the hospital where Endeavor is being held. He tells the nurses that he thinks he can heal Endeavor with an experimental serum. Endeavor doesn't want this. He does not want a child doing anything to him experimentally. Izuku tells him that he is the best scientist in his field, despite his age. And this is when Endeavor tells him that he doesn't give a fuck. He does not want to be healed by a child. Izuku's mask is covering his face, as he's wearing a doctor's mask. So Endeavor can't see his face. Izuku looks at Endeavor with hatred in his eyes, and he pins Endeavor to the table, or to the bed, and locks the door. He tells Endeavor that he doesn't have to heal him. He could allow him to be crippled. The only reason he is going to heal him is because society cannot rely on Hawks as the number one. Because Hawks is too irresponsible. And he knocks Endeavor out before injecting him with the serum that has a healing quirk in it, which heals Endeavor. Upon being healed, Izuku takes the quirk back and erases their conversation from his memory. This is when Izuku leaves and tells Aizawa that it's done. Upon seeing that his serum worked, the hospital verifies that Endeavor is indeed healed and ready to return to hero work as the number one hero. The commission allows this, and Endeavor is titled number one hero. Izuku then joins UA under the name Izuku Midoriya under the quirk Blackfire, as that is the quirk everyone believes he has. Izuku joins Class 1A in their dorms as they all then question why he's there when they return from internships a month later. He tells them that he is now in UA as a recommendation student and is now in their class. A couple of them don't believe it, such as Ida and Momo, who both state that it's far too late in the year for anyone to join UA. That's when Aizawa says that both of them are wrong, and that he has not only joined UA, he's also already taken the provisional license exam and gotten his hero license under the hero name Dark Flame. I'm kidding, I'm not gonna do that. His hero name is Pyro, but yeah, I didn't make it flashy. His hero's name's Pyro. Upon hearing those words, Ochako is incredibly giddy. She runs and jumps at Izuku, hugging him, throwing her arms around his neck. He catches her and spins her around in a hug. He is happy to also tell her that they will be sharing a dorm. The rest of the UA students begin to yell in jealousy that is not fair. But Aizawa activates his quirk and says Nezu himself told Izuku it's okay. So all of you shut up. Upon hearing that, the class quiets down. Izuku told Ochako that her dorm has already been extended to make accommodations for him, and that he's also moved part of his stuff from home into their room already. He tells her that he wants to also get to know the class more. So later, he wants to cook for the class and have a game night with them. UA's second year goes by flawlessly. With Izuku now in UA, the heroes are a little suspicious of where All For One went, where his successor, who claimed to be the new All For One, went. When the League of Villains finally showed their face again, they decided that since Izuku abandoned them, they would now kill his lover. They had no idea what his real name was. They only ever knew him as the mastermind. Upon seeing Izuku's hero outfit being entirely black and partially like Endeavor's, despite his hatred for it, but that's what the support course made for him to handle his flames. Shoto asks him if they're related, to which Izuku says yes and explains all about it. During their second year at UA, UA is attacked by the army of Nomu that the League of Villains still had access to, that were all linked to Shigaraki. The only Nomu they could not use was Gigantomachia, because he refused to listen to anyone but All for One. Izuku could control him if he wanted to, but he doesn't know where he is. Izuku burns away most of the Nomu, trying his best to not reveal who he actually is. It is only when one of the Nomu hits Uraraka into the wall as Dabi attacks her with his flames, attempting to kill her, that Izuku shows his real power. Izuku yells out, "I won't let you kill her," and activates air cannon as a blast of air shoots towards Uraraka, knocking Dabi's flames out of the way. Izuku floats up into the air using airwalk and tells the League of Villains that they are done, as he then swiftly knocks all of them out. Class 1A now realizes Izuku is All for One's successor. Izuku tries to explain himself, but they aren't having it. They won't listen. One of them, being Mineta, goes to attack Uraraka and Izuku with his sticky balls, saying that you two were both traitors, only for the balls to bounce off Izuku, having no effect because of Aizawa activating his quirk. Aizawa tells them that they will not attack Izuku. He has been cleared, and that he will not be a villain any longer. He is no longer a villain. He is a hero who will protect others. Izuku renames his hero name as being All for One. The public takes note of this and at first isn't very accepting of it. But after Izuku explains his backstory to the public, most agree, but some say he still needs to prove himself. Within 1 year of Izuku becoming a pro hero, Uraraka gets pregnant from him, birthing 9 months later, giving birth to a baby boy with greenish brown hair. The boy's quirk was similar to Uraraka's. He could control gravity. Izuku, not long after, reached the title of #1 hero. Crime had gone down almost 90% since he became a hero. The name All for One was now known as the name of a hero. It no longer had that devastating backstory on it, no longer. Izuku was happy. Eri had been officially adopted as his daughter. Bakugo, soon surpassed everyone else and became the number 2 hero, Ground Zero. Not too long after that, Izuku told all of them he would be a father again. All of 1A was looked at Uraraka as she was pregnant again with their second child, as she was holding their first child, who was now 3 years old, in her arms as he was playing with something she had given him. He told them all that the second child was a girl who had a quirk similar to his, a fire quirk. They asked how Izuku knew this, as you can't tell what the quirk of a child is until they are about 4 years old. Izuku states that he just has a hunch, and looks at Uraraka, who also has a hunch, because something they didn't realize is his blood mixed, or his DNA had combined with All for One. And the children, and because of this, the children had partial parts of All for One in their DNA. This allowed Uraraka to use their quirks before they were born. With their son, she had accidentally set off his quirk around 4 weeks of being pregnant, and accidentally threw Izuku to the ground with gravity, though he was able to stand back up because of him being stronger than the gravitational force. Not too long after she got pregnant, something similar happened, with her hands accidentally igniting in a greenish flame that melted the faucet of their sink. They found a way around this, as Izuku could lock the quirks for a certain time. He locked the quirks inside their children until they were around 4 or 3. After that, the quirks would awaken, and they would be told what their quirks are and how to use them. The rest of Class 1A became pro heroes as well, climbing the ranks. The top 3 heroes were All for One, being Izuku Midoriya, Ground Zero, number 2, Bakugo Katsuki, and number 3 was actually, I was gonna say it's gonna be Kirishima. Nah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna have it be the big 3. Number 3 was Hellfrost, aka Shoto Todoroki. Number 4 was Kirishima Ejiro, Red Riot. And that is where we leave off. But I know some of you are going to ask, what about Uraraka's rank? What rank is she? Is she a low rank because she doesn't have a powerful quirk like they do? Uraraka is the number 6 hero, Uravity. There you go. I know this wasn't actually a long story. It's only 3 parts, being about roughly 3 hours and 3.5 hours long for all 3 videos, but I don't really know what to do much more of for this. But I hope you all have enjoyed this. If you have, let me know in the comments. If you want to see more, please tell me. If you have any ideas for how I could do this better, please fucking tell me, please. I need help. But yes, with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are in the world. And with that being said, this is Crimson Emperor, and I'm signing off. Love you.